Hey everyone, it's Carol Foderick from the Carol Foderick Real Estate Group, and welcome to episode 6 of All the Best Things About Real Estate. Is that the name? Wait a minute, did I get that wrong? The best thing about real estate is, see, I can't even, maybe by episode 36, I'll get it right. The best thing about real estate is, we're talking about something today that parlays in from our last episode, which was finding the perfect rental. We determined that it was sort of possible. We're going to talk about the dark side of renting right now, which is real estate scams, specifically for rental. We could do an entire podcast, and we will, about real estate scams and how to avoid them in the resale market. But a huge amount of the fraud that is perpetrated involving real estate is around the rental process. Probably a little bit easier to undertake because it's lower amounts and there's perhaps a higher level of trust there. When there's less dollar amount being transacted, it's also not regulated by lawyers. But the number of real estate scams involving rentals, it's on the news almost every single week. We hear something about it. What's new? And as real estate professionals, we hear all the different variations of the scams that are going out almost on a weekly basis. We're going to talk about all of them today. There are so many. I had to make lists, guys. So you're going to see me referring to my cheat sheets. So real estate scams exist on both the landlord and the tenant side. I want to start with the tenant side, Emily. We talked about in the last episode, you represent a huge number of tenants. We see scams all of the time involving tenants. So how are tenants being, frankly, ripped off? Or maybe not even ripped off, but they are being
taken advantage of in general.
Taken advantage of, whether it's
as if they weren't already enough. Legal ways.
Exactly. So we are going to talk about all the real estate scams that exist. So real estate fraud can be avoided first and foremost. Maybe we'll come back to that at the end. Let's really scare the crap out of some people here because it is a true statement. We're doing 250 rental transactions a year. We see this almost on a daily basis, certainly on a weekly basis. A week does not go by when we are seeing some sort of fraud in the market, either attempted being perpetrated against one of our clients, or we unfortunately get the clients that have been the victims of fraud reaching out too late to be able to try and get some advice on how to handle it. So let's talk about the most common one.
So, well, from the tenant perspective, a lot of the times it's someone advertising a rental that doesn't exist or isn't theirs, and they actually have fun names for them, as we found out. One of them was a phantom unit. Phantom units.
Unit doesn't exist, and the landlord is not really the landlord. So there's not even a physical rental space. So how does somebody perpetrate this? How does the scammer perpetrate that?
They just put up a fake listing, whether it's they're grabbing pictures from a whole bunch of different units and they're putting up on Facebook Marketplace. Like, no one's checking to see that this is legitimate, that they own it or anything. Like,
there is no, that's a great point. There is no police of it. So to be clear, if you get ripped off and money, you do lose money, you can go to, your local police department. They may or may not be able to assist you depending on how it was perpetrated. But to be clear, there is no police unless you are listing your property or are going to look at a property that has been listed by a licensed real estate professional and their brokerage. There is no policing. Those ones are policed. There is no policing what's going up on Facebook Marketplace.
Exactly. And also most of these times, these scammers are like professional scammers. So they're really good at not getting caught by the police. So
So phantom unit, how does that show up? So you talked to
it just shows up as there's a listing. It looks great. Like, the price is probably amazing. You're probably like, oh my God, too good to be true, because it is. And then you reach out and they ask for a deposit. They ask for something, just something upfront. So they're asking like cash up front, an e-transfer, maybe even like check, maybe, I don't know. Like, they're just getting creative on any way to get money from you.
EFT now, because it's the easiest one to do. So send and sometimes it's like, I'll send you a key deposit. I'm not in the country. If you send me $50, I'll send you the key, or I'll give you the access code, but I need something. And they put the onus often on the tenant to make it look like they're the ones that shouldn't be trusted.
Or the rent, sometimes the address won't be on there, or it will be an address that looks real. Maybe it is real. It's just, I don't know, it doesn't line up with the unit, and it's because the unit's not real, or it's a unit number that doesn't exist. It's usually, I feel like usually they're on Facebook Marketplace. That's where I see them.
Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, Craigslist. Do people still go on Craigslist? I don't know anymore.
I don't even know when the last time I was on there.
But there are all the third-party rental sites. It's really important that if somebody is willing, and sometimes they'll actually invest money to advertise it on a semi-legitimate site. So
because they're going to make it back.
Well, that's true. Yeah, in most cases. And so they will add legitimacy to their fraudulent listing by listing it on a pay-per-use site where it doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be super careful with stuff
phantom
like
unit. Phantom unit, phantom landlord apparently as well. So and then to be clear, usually the communication ceases after you've sent the money, or sometimes they go back and try and bilk you again for something else, right?
Exactly.
So
who knows how far they'll go, probably until they feel like they're going to get caught.
So you touched a little bit on it. How do you spot a phantom unit?
Unit
question. Doesn't exist. I agree. Like literally there is no physical address. Either they haven't given a physical address, or they haven't that physical address does not exist.
Well, we have we have the means of checking.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, we do as real estate professionals.
I would say like reach out to a real estate agent, if just like to verify even, and then typing in the address yourself. Like it's really hard. That's the point. It's really hard to double check to see if this listing is legitimate or not, right? Like on your own when you're not working with a professional, and that's why these scams happen, because it's hard to verify.
So to be clear, units that are advertised on the MLS on realtor.ca are real units. There is some measure, because in order to get onto realtor.ca or MLS.ca, you are required to the listing brokerage has certain requirements in order to verify that is a real unit, that is a real person. We're required to ID our clients. Like there is a measure of legitimacy to those. Okay, so phantom units, very common. Hijacked unit. So what is that? Because that's like the unit exists, but it is a spoof of a legitimate rental listing.
Yeah. So it's not a legitimate rental. It might not be the landlord. Usually it's not the landlord who's advertising it. Yeah, exactly. So it could be someone who's Airbnb-ing it.
We're going to come back to the Airbnb. That's a whole
other, jump ahead.
So hijacked unit, often where somebody has taken a legitimate rental listing and has offered it again for a lower price using the exact same
pictures. Created a whole new listing.
Or sometimes
it's the same.
The entirety of the listing. What's changed is the contact information. And again, they're trying to get somebody. So if you were to check it against a legitimate site, you'd be like, oh, look, this is a real rental site. So
and it's like really tricky. Sorry to cut you off, but like just to say that it's super tricky to find, because a lot of real estate agents post legitimate rentals online for people to get leads essentially and to advertise it. So it's super hard to make sure that this is someone who actually is a real estate agent, is a licensed professional, or if it's someone who's just trying to get your money from you. But I guess the telltale way to figure that out is they will most likely just push you really hard to get money up front before seeing the unit, or maybe they'll show it to you even if they're really involved, and then be like, okay, like pay me for X, Y, and Z, a deposit or something like that, and then I'll give you the lease later, and then they'll just leave with your money.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something really good, because let's talk about this. Does physically walking through a unit with somebody guarantee that is a non-fraudulent transaction?
No, not at all.
Not at all. No. So let's talk about how advanced these scammers have gotten, because you mentioned it already that these scammers are getting more and more
creative.
And also remember that once you physically walk through the unit, your level of trust has gone up exponentially. A lot of us, I would say that most of us are savvy enough to realize that if somebody's asking for money up front, that it's probably a bad idea. But that's probably fraudulent. But you've walked through a unit, you've gone, somebody's been there, they've been pleasant, they've been friendly, they don't look like a fraudster. Can you be guaranteed that once you've walked through a unit, you're actually dealing with the landlord? And if not, how is the fraudster often misrepresenting the unit? Because there's two in particular that I think are really important. So the sublet one, which is one that actually happened to a member of our team on her personal rental not that long ago. So she rented the unit to somebody, and then they fraudulently sublet it to a whole bunch of people. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, just for context on that story, they're trying to rent out her hallway in her basement. So sorry.
So there's more than one, there's more than one ability. So let's talk about what a subletting fraud would look like. Yeah. So subletting fraud is like, I'm the landlord and you're the tenant. You are going to show up, you are going to present documents. Usually they're fraudulent, but I'm going to accept you as a tenant. I'm going to lawfully turn over keys to you. You are now my tenant. You as the tenant now go out and find, because you've paid first and last. So,
exactly.
so maybe
I
you're
paid a deposit.
Yeah. So you've made, maybe you spent $4,000, and fraudsters will sometimes make an investment to be able to recoup a bigger fraudulent return. So now you've got possession of that unit. You post it on
Facebook,
a third-party
Marketplace,
site, whatever.
Yeah.
And then collect multiple first and last month's rent. And then all of those people show up at the same time at the first of the month. And you've now moved on. You've spent $4,000, but you've collected
like 20.
Yeah, you're now saying
25.
Oh, I've now got 3 bedrooms to rent out with a shared kitchen.
Well,
that's even a different one. There's so many.
So
that's
this is straight sublet fraud where now they've gotten possession. They made an investment to you, but they have recouped many more times their investment. The sublet fraud where they are now subletting it as a rooming house. Talk about that, Emily.
So like that's more of a to the story of the hallway rental. So the sublet rental. So that would be, someone with us.
Someone the hallway for. Sorry.
Okay.
Good question.
Okay. I'm going to come back to that because I think that's an important question.
Yeah. So, but the sublet rental, someone with a, good enough credit, good enough profile to gets accepted in this rental, and then, ends up subletting it to many people. And sometimes they're even making more than the rent that's paying, which is illegal.
It's usually
for many reasons.
It's usually what they're it's usually what the scam is. So they're renting a whole house for say $2,500, but then they're subletting
like
the
rooms.
entirety of the rooms. Like so they're subletting it to like, okay, it's $1,200 for this room, it's $1,200 for this room. And
they're making lots of money.
Lots of money. And sometimes they're continuing to pay the initial landlord. And sometimes they're not. And so if you're the landlord, we're going to talk about this in a minute about the landlord frauds that are going on and how the tenants are scamming landlords back. But that's the challenge.
And if
right?
you're subletting, if you're the one who's subletting and you don't even maybe know that it's not legal what is happening, and you don't know that they're not paying the landlord, you're the one who's going to get evicted.
Yes, you'll be evicted. It will take some time, but you will be evicted because if the person you're doing the illegal sublet from is illegal, not paying the landlord, it's not legal. But even if that's assuming that they're paying the rent. So
exactly.
So really, so as a tenant, how do you verify that the person that you're talking to is in fact the landlord? Yeah,
that's again a great question, because you really, really can't. It's very hard to, like, I don't know, you could ask for their driver's license. I don't think they're going to give it to you, or their like agreement of purchase and sale. But again, who's to say that's not fake either? And, it's just like you can't really verify without a professional who has access to, land registry, and all these legal, like, I don't know, like enforcements kind of surrounding everything. Like we've got the brokerage as well. Verification there. Just there's a lot. That's why, again, it's really important to work with a professional.
So short-term rental scams.
Happen.
We could have an entire podcast just about all the pros, but also the cons of short-term rental. And there are many people that, run short-term rentals and they do it beautifully and it's very profitable for them. And that's great. But let's talk about what happens when you turn over possession of your unit. You're an owner. You're going out of town for a few weeks. You decide that you're going to do a short-term rental for 2 weeks, a month. You rent it to somebody. Does the short-term rental platform, I'm not going to mention anyone specifically, there's many short-term rental platforms. Do they do any sort of verification of who that person is? Minimal.
No.
We've all rented short-term rentals. They're not asking for, they're not qualifying a tenant in the way that we would qualify one for a long-term occupancy. It's very much the same process as booking a hotel room. You turn over possession of your unit to somebody, and then fraudsters are taking possession of your unit and doing what with it while you're in there?
Well, it could be kind of like the hijacking of the units. Again, they can be showing it to many, many people and just, saying, here, here's a rental for lease. Yeah, exactly. And then collecting again deposits, multiple deposits. This is also the gateway to like mortgage fraud too, which we can get into later.
We are going to do a whole real estate podcast about how to prevent mortgage fraud.
The short-term rentals are really like just, again, a gateway to real estate scams.
And one that organized crime is exploiting hugely now, right? Like you have to remember where vulnerability exists and where there's technology, where the ability to commit a fraud far outseeds our ability to police it. That's an opportunity that often organized crime is looking to exploit. So when we say fraudsters, there are many different types of fraudsters. There are people that are perpetrating it at a very, very high level. There's your mom and pop fraudsters. There's, the people who do it for the fun and enjoyment and thrill of of defrauding people. There's other people who it's a proven, source of, for lack of a better term, business income, like organized crime. So, so short-term rentals, you walk through, somebody has access to the unit, they're walking you through, and you're supposed to be moving in on the first. And when the first shows up, you show up with your moving truck, as do many other people with their moving trucks. You see this reported on the news sometimes. And people are literally just, there's a whole bunch of people looking to move in. And the owner of the unit or the next short-term rental guest is like, I have no idea what's going on here.
Exactly.
You've been the victim of a fraud. Let's talk about the sort of non-monetary. So far we've talked a lot about deposits and turning over money and stuff. Other ways that you can get defrauded through a rental process is identity theft. So what does that look like? Sometimes they're trying to harvest, they're trying to get you to send money. What else do you normally send through a rental transaction that could be exploited?
Well, your identity, like you have to provide, your ID, like your credit report. Sometimes you're even providing your social insurance number. And so if you give that
your workplace, like it's just sometimes your bank account information.
Exactly. So, I mean, if you're sending that out to whoever you're talking with on some like online, like marketing or online lead
even if
platform,
they never ask for money,
and they've
given them everything they possibly need to be able to commit other sort of financial crimes against you.
Exactly. And identity theft.
Sure. If they've got your bank account information or whatever, they can just go into the bank and say, or go online and say, I need to open up a whatever, and here's my account number, and here's my ID.
Like the value of your information isn't necessarily in what they themselves can exploit it. A lot of people don't realize that, the selling of personal information on the dark web isn't itself a business. So the dark web, I was advised by our cybersecurity technology person, don't ever go. You can't unsee things of the things that you're going to see on the dark web. So I'm not recommending
Ignorance is bliss.
But there are known marketplaces on the dark web where if you have personal information for people, that you can sell it and receive money on the dark web. It's terrifying, right? All the information, often when your device is compromised, or you voluntarily give out information, it is resold on the dark web. So the value isn't even them perpetrating a financial crime against you. It is that
they're going to go sell it for Bitcoin.
They're going to resell it for Bitcoin. And I should say that any real estate transaction that requests that you send money in cryptocurrency, please run as far and as fast away from that as possible. Nobody is requesting, nobody who's legitimate is requesting an untraceable,
currency.
Currency. I agree. So identity theft. Have you had clients, Emily, that if you've come across and have experienced, they become the victims of identity theft in their rental search when they're not working with a professional?
Fortunately, I have not, but I've had maybe the other way around, which is maybe a good segue to when we're going to talk about landlord scams.
Oh no,
but
Emily, there's more we haven't talked about.
I'm jumping ahead again, but no, just on a personal level, like not active victims of identity theft. Like I'd say the most it's come to is just credit reports kind of intermingling and stuff, which is again why it's important to work with a real estate professional who can point that out. But I think it's more in terms of I'm just receiving fake documents that aren't theirs.
So we've talked a lot about fraudsters that are looking to either get money from you, documents from you, like there is some clear theft. I want to talk a little bit about misrepresentation, which is theft in a different way. And maybe theft is a hard word, but if you are paying for something, there is an expectation that you're going to get what you're paying for. And missing amenities is perhaps not fraud in itself, but it certainly is going to dampen whether or not you have an enjoyable experience and you got all of the value that you paid for. So let's talk about this because new construction condos, this happens a lot in. So let's talk about what the impact is of missing amenities. What is that? How is that? How is that disingenuous?
So, well, for instance, so a lot of times what we see is a listing where it's a brand new construction building and it will list all these amazing amenities. And then you go to the condo and, you see that the elevator's not finished. The hallways aren't done. The unit, it looks almost ready to go. Maybe there's a couple more touch-ups that they need to do, but they're still advertising all these amenities, which are not done.
And amenities often the last thing.
Exactly. Last thing to be done.
Pool's not finished.
Gym's not done.
Gym's not done.
Like builders, like their priority is to get people in the units, right?
Yeah.
So, and to have occupancy. So the amenities, bottom of the priority list. So you need to be super aware that when you're renting that, like there's a very likely chance that they're not going to be done even in a year's time. Like it's slow. Yeah.
It can be.
Depends on when you
really
move
long
in.
time
Yeah.
to get it
And
finalized.
if you only want to be
Exactly.
there for a year, you're not going to have
and
you're
it
not
was
going to have
really-
access to any of that
if you
stuff, and
really,
yet you're paying
really-
for it.
Yeah, exactly. And you really
Yeah.
wanted to have a gym, like that's a that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is so something. And then also I want to talk about deposits as well too.
Yeah. So again, for rental deposits, so in terms of prepaying rent, is that?
Yep.
Yeah. So prepaying rent. So technically, so it's supposed to be voluntary, and landlords can't ask you to, voluntarily, or they can't force you, to prepay rent more than the first and last month's rent. So, it's a common thing now to prepay a lot of, maybe 3, 4, even 5, 6 months of rent up front.
Just because of the competition.
Because the rental market is so competitive.
To be clear,
Yeah.
and we didn't touch on this in the last podcast, but it is not lawful for the landlord to request
Yes,
that.
exactly.
A tenant can offer it. It is not legal
Right.
for a landlord to require you to pay
Right.
Yeah.
any more than your first month's rent up front.
Yeah, it has to be voluntary, and it does, I would be lying if I said it doesn't help your chances of getting accepted,
But the offer has to come from the tenant. It cannot be a requirement of the landlords for it to be
the landlords
legal.
can't force you to
So
do it.
if you have a pet and the landlords are requiring a $2,000 deposit for your pet, is that legal?
No.
Are you likely to get it back at the end?
No.
Yeah.
Although legally you may be entitled to it back, the chances are good that you may have to fight for it back. And who wants to do that?
Yeah.
So, and at some point, especially if it's like a $200 deposit, very often we'll see tenants just walking away.
Exactly. Yeah.
Give me your scariest tenant got screwed story, because there are many of them. And Gabriella, I know you've seen some as well too. I've seen many. I've seen tenants show up. This woman, showed up to a house that we had for rent in Oakville, and it had been a spoofed listing. So our tenants were, thoroughly vetted. Our landlord client was a real landlord client. We executed a rental agreement that was completely above board, no issues. A hacker or scammer had spoofed the listing and met somebody in a parking lot and collected $8,000 in prepaid rent from them. And the woman showed up with her moving truck, and our tenant client had already moved in, and she showed up with her rental truck and said, I'm supposed to be moving in $8,000 later. Now they traced it back. They had video imaging of the person she had met at a particular plaza to collect this deposit. But
the lucky side of it.
It was it was a terrible story. And this woman who, was completely, and not only out the money, but also nowhere to go. Like, what do you do when all of your belongings are on a moving truck and the moving truck is on the clock?
Yeah.
It's a horrific experience. Where do you go? It's very difficult to secure rental. That means you have to offload into storage. The implication is not only the loss of the money, but it could be tens of thousands of dollars or more in other costs.
Yeah.
Have you had a particularly nasty one that you've encountered?
So I've had kind of close calls, with, I would say, clients I have one client who's a friend of mine actually, and she was before, she was kind of just looking for roommates and kind of to figure out a situation where she could move in with someone. And so she was in the land of Facebook Marketplace, and she was just looking at a rental. She found one, and it was like a studio for $1,000 a month. And I was just like, that's, again, seems too good to be true. And luckily we were having a conversation, and because she's one of my good friends, I was chatting with her, and I was like, look, please be so careful if you're going to go see this. And then so she was basically messaging the guy and just was asking kind of when can I come see it? Blah, blah, blah. And then just his answers were so sketchy. They were so dry. And I was just like, this just doesn't feel right to me. But if you go, please bring a friend with you, because you don't know, it's not only just about the money. It's she could be taken into a human trafficking ring or something.
It's a whole other
it's a whole other discussion, of course. But you have to be careful.
About roommate scams, but there are people that go out there and they post ads looking for roommates. They are legitimate, real human beings. They will move into a rental unit with somebody, and then they never intend to pay rent.
Exactly.
And so, if you are going to get into a roommate situation, there are professional we call them professional tenants out there who look to exploit not just landlords, but to be clear, other tenants as well too. And so they'll pose as I'm looking for a roommate, and then they move in. And then because in Ontario, you're jointly and severally liable, you are on the hook for that person. So if you are going to get into a roommate situation, whether you know the person or not, understand that there is liability that goes on there. Do you have, just in closing, Gabriella, do you have a terrible story? We were originally going to talk about landlord and tenant scams. I have 2 pages of these guys. We are going to have to do the landlord scams on a separate day because
I'm just trying to think of
unpacking this. Well, you had one with St. Michael's Hospital where as a tenant just the other day.
She was, but this is the tenant.
It was a rental application.
And she sent me all her paperwork,
completely fabricated.
And as part of my job, I'm vetting to see, is this person, who they say they are. And I contacted St. Mike's Hospital, and they have, she used the letterhead and everything.
No record of this person being employed.
record of this person working there.
Challenging, guys. And we share these stories not to scare people. It's because I really want to just reinforce that your likelihood of being scammed is dramatically reduced by working alongside somebody that has an understanding of how to spot these scams, whether on the tenant side or the landlord side.
And it doesn't cost you anything.
It's free, when you're working with when you're working on a tenant representation, the cost for you is paid for by the owner of the property that you choose to lease. So if you are out there and you're watching this and you know of somebody who is thinking about getting into the rental market, you're thinking about transferring rentals, please reach out to us, guys. Even if it's just a conversation, use an agent. Yes. But even if it's just a second opinion on something, like I'm always going to take a few minutes to say this looks sketchy or this, no, I think that this is legitimate. At the very least, we can help to verify.
Exactly.
And it's an honor to be a service to our tenant clients and just try to keep them out of the hot water, because it's really hard to, when you become the victim of a crime, it's a really hard thing
maneuvering.
to get over.
It's so complicated that why wouldn't you use an agent?
We can help.
Yeah, we can help. Yeah. That's the point of that.
So Gabriella and Emily, thank you so much. We're going to have to unpack the landlord rentals on next episode. Yeah. We will do landlord. We will do landlord fraud. Yes, so, which is an unfortunate reality that exists too on the other side. It's not one side or the other. Yeah. So we'll unpack that on our next episode. But I want to thank you, ladies. Thanks
been for having us. This has been fun.
To hang out. It has been fun, right? So first podcast, first time you've been on a podcast. Yeah. Exciting, right?
Yeah.
So
super fun.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you guys. And again, anybody's watching, if we can be of assistance to you with anything real estate related, it is always an honor and a privilege to be able to answer your questions. So thanks for watching The Best Thing About Real Estate. And we'll catch up with you guys again soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.